listening to Range Minded from Independence Indoor Shooting. Before we get started, make sure you find us on Facebook and Instagram at Range Minded Podcast and leave us some feedback from wherever you get your podcasts if you haven't already. It really does help us out. This is episode number 70, where we talk with our guest, Adam Boyce, who, if you've listened to the podcast before, you may remember. He's a former member of a special response team as a sniper and assaulter, and now is the founder of Spartan Mode, where he teaches knife and improvised weapon skills from martial blade concepts. One of the only people in the world qualified to do that. Plus, he teaches defensive tactics, and he teaches pistol and rifle skills as well. So it's safe to say he knows his stuff. Adam's a great guy to talk to anytime, so thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoy episode number 70 of Range Minded, the Adam Boyce episode number 2. Hello and welcome to Range Minded from Independence Indoor Shooting. My name is Mark Long, sitting all by myself, but I am joined by...
Steve Zimmerman.
And Adam Boyce.
The one and only. And you are joined by somebody as well. Oh, I just ruined it.
Okay, try again.
You are also joined by...
I am. I got a special guest with me.
Yeah, my name's Adam Boyce.
Yes, and you have been on the podcast before. This is your second time. How are you, sir?
Oh, fantastic. Excited to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, man, it's great. We always love having guests, and we have like to have other guests on again for the second time. Sometimes the second time is better. You never know. So
yeah, it wasn't that the first time sucked so bad and we had to bring him back to redeem himself. It's just that we liked him so much, we wanted to bring him back.
We'll see how it goes, I guess, huh?
Oh, yeah. So if you guys remember last time, and maybe if you want to go ahead and pause this one, jump back to when we re-released Adam's podcast, listen to about it. He does something called...
Martial Blade Concepts.
Martial Blade Concepts. What is Martial Blade Concepts?
So it is a modern take on Filipino martial arts. It basically analyzes the most effective way to stop an attacker with a knife and how to defend against a knife in a manner that's legal. A lot of tactics nowadays teach you how to kill somebody. What we teach you how to do is stop somebody as quickly and efficiently as possible.
And why is that so important, just to stop the threat, not to go for the end game?
You want to make sure that you don't go to jail when you're done.
Yeah, I would rather not go to jail.
Yeah, it's not high on my priorities.
Yeah, me too.
Same here. We were lucky enough to take your class about a year ago, I would say, right? And it's been a year now?
Yeah, it's probably been about a year.
Yep.
And if you haven't taken an edge weapons class, defense class, it is truly worth your time and money, I think.
Oh, yeah. Just another tool in the tool belt. And it really makes you think about, close quarters combat. And Adam, you can speak to this a little bit more, but, these are techniques and situations to think about when you may not even have time to draw a firearm.
Yeah, exactly. I spent about 7 years on the special response team as a sniper and assaulter. I'm a big gun guy. That's what I think you should carry. But there are some situations where you might not be able to carry a gun, and you might need another tool. So having the ability to use your empty hand skills to transition to a better weapon is a critical skill a lot of people don't have. A lot of people just say, hey, I've got a gun, I'm going to shoot you. And if you start analyzing and looking at videos of actual shootings, people that have been shot, you'll start seeing that people don't burst into flames when they're shot with bullets. So having those skills is critical.
And I think that's really why we wanted to bring you back there's a lot of stuff that's been going on crazy in the world right now, some pretty tragic and terrible stuff. But it made me think, because I try to carry a defensive tool no matter where I go, where it's legal anyways, right? And sometimes that's not a gun. Sometimes I'm unable to carry my firearm where I go. And that's why I wanted to bring you back so we could talk a little bit about maybe some alternate methods or alternate tools to carry, and ways maybe that could save your life.
Awesome. Well, yeah, let's talk about that. So there's a couple different things when you think about other tools. So if you're in a spot where you can't carry a gun, for example, you're on an airplane, a couple things that I really like to carry are flashlights and pens. When you're looking at improvised tools or things that you're going to carry in a non-weapon permissive environment, there's a few things you need to think about. Number one, if you're going to use it, you have to be justified, just like you would if you were using another weapon.
Sure.
Another thing you have to think about is I need to use this tool to stop or hurt the person bad enough that's attacking me that they're going to stop attacking me. A lot of tactics now, if you watch shows and videos, you'll see Jason Bourne, for example. He pulls out the plastic pen and sticks it in the guy's hand. What you'll find when you start quantifying and start testing different tools and different weapons is that the human body is very resilient. So using a plastic pen might not penetrate the way it does in Jason Bourne.
That's not going to work?
It's probably not going to work.
Gosh, dang it. Not even with a pencil?
Yeah.
There goes my strategy.
So with that, you'll find, pencils, for example, or ballpoint pens that are plastic bodied. What you'll find is when you actually try and test them on objects, you'll find that they'll often break. So it's going to be kind of a one-use disposable item. So keep that in context. If you're going to ever use a plastic pen for self-defense, just realize it's got to have structure if you want something to wield.
Yeah, I can imagine it like any kind of strong impact. You need something. I know she got a nice looking pen there, and I'm guessing that's not a plastic pen.
Yeah, no, this is one of the ones I've been carrying for a couple of years. This is a Tough Rider pen. They're made in Arizona by Jack Roman. Awesome tool, very stout. I've carried this actually about 20 times on different flights around the country. I've never had anybody question it or take it from me. It's not tactical looking. It just looks like a really nice fancy pen.
No, and a lot of those, and you can spend a lot of money on a tactical pen.
You sure can.
And you can also spend very little money on a tactical pen. And I've probably fallen victim to the latter more than once.
Yep.
And you can tell the difference, right? Like, you can go pretty much anywhere now, like Cabela's, and find an aluminum body pen, which they'll quantify or classify as a tactical pen. So what makes those pens different than these pens?
So there's a couple different things. Number one is if it's going to be an improvised tool or something you're going to take places where you're not supposed to have weapons, you don't want it to look like a weapon. So that's one thing that they do a really good job with, and that's why I like them. Another thing is, like I talked about before, is it needs to have the structure. So you have to be able to wield it. It has to have the appropriate mass. You have to be able to access it immediately. So those are a couple of things that I look for. Another thing with a tactical pen is you got to make sure it doesn't injure you when you use it. So one of the very first tactical pens I got probably about 8 years ago, it had a DNA collector on the back, and it had all the fancy jimping and rough edges on it so that you could hurt the bad guy. Well, what I found when I tested it is actually tearing up my hand. So having a good purpose-built pen is a good thing to get if you're going to look for an improvised tool.
Well, and that's something that you want to look for with a knife as well, that you didn't that you bring up in your class. When looking for a knife, you want to look for something that isn't going to end up hurting yourself when you are in a situation, right?
Yeah, I mean, like you say, with a knife, it's one of the things we do when we're actually training how to cut with a knife is we want to make sure that we're not cutting ourselves. Same thing with a pen or a flashlight, anything like that. We want to make sure that it's going to do what we want it to and injure them and not us.
Yeah, and there's a lot, I noticed, especially with flashlights, you'll have that serrated bezel or whatever on the front, and it looks cool, and you can imagine what that'd be as far as a striking device, but yes, it might not go the way you're planning.
Right. So that's pens and flashlights. Let's maybe talk about a couple other options, other things you can do. But maybe before we do that, let's talk about sources of weapons. So there's basically three sources of weapons. You have personal weapons, which are things that you're going to carry on you. So that's going to be your flashlights, your pens, that type of stuff. The next one's going to be environmental. So maybe you go into a restaurant and you see there's a fire extinguisher on the wall. There's
my button.
There's your bunny bird.
Heck yeah. Sorry.
Different tools of opportunity that you're going to find in the environments that you enter. And then the last one could be something that you prepare. So that's going to be a rolled up newspaper, maybe a sock with a lock in it or something like that. So those are basically the three.
That's a prison weapon. What do you think? Good grief.
Wow, that's like, Full Metal Jacket style.
Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Yeah. But that's kind of the basic three sources. And then we have different types of weapons. We basically have 5 different types of weapons. We have an impact weapon. So that's going to be something that when you hit, it's going to break. An edge weapon is going to be something that cuts. Now on that, you got to be kind of careful. There's a lot of MacGyver tactical tricks out there where people are sharpening up the edges of credit cards, and that's what they're going to use for self-defense. If you're going to do that, you got to make sure that's actually going to do what you think it's going to do. So again,
it almost sounds like that kind of changes the intent, like you're
almost premeditating.
Yeah, you're premeditating something. That kind of makes me nervous.
Yeah. But again, a lot of people think, well, I'm going to use this pop can. If things go crazy, I'm going to rip this open and use aluminum. But have you tested it out before?
It folds over.
Another type of tool is a pointed. So that's going to be something that punctures. And then we also have flexible. So that's going to be something perhaps could whip or entangle them. And then a hybrid is kind of a combination of all the above. But that's kind of basically the types of improvised weapons we look at. As far as categories go, you basically have a fist palm is one of our first ones. So again, you're looking at a pen or flashlight, something you can grip in the palm of your hand, something that's going to stick above and below your palm so you can hit with both sides of it. A palm load could be something like a coffee mug, something that you put in the palm of your hand. Another type or category is a baton. So you're looking at sticks, things that you can hit with. Projectile. So this could be something that distracts or hurts the individual. Flexible. So the belt. This is one that people say, I'm going to use my belt for self-defense. I'm going to go on the plane. I'm going to have my belt. That's what I'm going to use. If you've ever tried to take off your belt fast, it's kind of hard to do. I mean, even if you put the right music, it's hard to take your belt off quick.
Yeah. You need to turn the lights down lower.
Turn them down low.
Yeah.
But you'll find that you got to test out the weapons that you're going to use. I mean, make sure that it's going to work.
I mean, we talk about that with firearms all the time, holster selection or carry options or position of carry that, you should really be drilling that down and how you're going to get that firearm out of the holster in a certain position. But, at least in my point of view, maybe because I'm talking from experience, I don't practice getting my pocket knife out of my pocket. I don't practice, where's the best location, what pocket or whatever. I put it in the same pocket every time, but I don't, do 5 quick draws out of the pocket every day just to make that mental record of where it's at. And maybe I should be,
Yeah.
But I think a lot is probably overlooked a lot of times is, well, I'll carry this tactical pin and I'll put it in my back pocket. Okay. Are you going to get it out? You're going to sit on it.
Yeah. If you're not thinking about it.
Well, and from what it sounds like with improvised weapons, it sounds like, that you even should, when you're kind of walking around or going to dinner or just kind of going about your day, you should be looking around and seeing what you have available to you as what you call improvised environmental weapons. Is that something that you do as you go about your day?
Yeah, that's spot on. So that's one of the things, a lot of people talk about situational awareness, and you're looking for threats a lot of times, what people look for. Once you really start looking at your environment and saying, okay, what tools do I have here? Maybe I have something that's stationary, like a car or a wall or something that I'm going to use to brace or slam the guy's head into when he's attacking me. Maybe there's a steak knife there if I can't take my knife in to the location. But yeah, constantly looking for and just having that awareness, whether you carry a firearm or whatever you carry. One of the biggest tools you can have is being aware what's happening before it happens. That can get you out of a lot of trouble.
Yeah, and I've noticed that a lot more when I go, and I've got my son out. We've talked about this before. My son's almost 17, and we'll go into restaurants. But okay, how many exits? And what is that guy over there? What's he wearing? We'll try to make a game out of it, so he's starting to pay attention. Exactly what's going down, and sometimes it doesn't work that great, but that's the point of the exercise is to develop it. But a lot of people don't even think about that either. Hey, I'm at Fiesta Olay or whatever, and I can use this plastic knife if I need to, at least one time.
One shot to the eye, maybe, huh? Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
But the situation that a lot of people get into is they just think, I don't need to carry a weapon on me. I'll just pick up what's available. So a lot of people think, well, I'll just pick up a rock or whatever. But most environments that you're going to, there's probably not going to be a rock laying there or something like that. And if there's something you need to pick up, more than likely you're in a situation where somebody's actually attacking you. So, hey, hold on there, Mr. Bad Guy. Let me pick up this rock so I can hit you.
Give me 5 seconds. Just wait.
Yep. So again, that awareness of threats and tools is a good thing to have.
That's, another reason that it makes more sense to carry your own weapons, whether that's, a firearm or a knife or even a pen or a flashlight, because rather than, using brain power and time to search for a weapon that may be on the ground or on the wall or something like that, you'll have it on your pocket, on your pocket or on your belt, or you'll know exactly where it is. You don't even have to think about deploying it.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. That's the best weapon. I mean, what's the best weapon? It's the one that you have on you that you're carrying.
Yeah. When you need time, life is, or what is it? Life is time, whatever you call it. Minutes count, seconds count. Yeah, I don't know what I'm trying to say.
We know what you're saying. Yep.
Well, when I was teaching handgun classes, talking about how fast can you get a gun out, a lot of times I would kind of go back. Have you ever been in a car accident or anything like that? And you under stress, you don't have time to think about some of those things. If you're in a car accident or you see a car accident happen right in front of you, your mind is focusing on that and not, something else that you might need to get to. Your stress level completely changes. And if you don't have those tools on you right away, you're never going to find them. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, and that's a good point too, that, when you're training, you don't train necessarily under stress, and in stress, even just a timer, if you're shooting, for example, like a timed drill or something like that, that's going to add a whole nother level of stress that you may not have ever even thought of.
So on that note too, carrying stuff, a lot of people will ask, well, how do I carry a tactical pen? How do I carry a flashlight, a knife, and a gun, and a med kit, and all this stuff on me? So one of the things to think about with all this too is it's if you're going to have it on you, you got to make sure that it's going to stay on you if you are actually wrestling around or grappling or somebody's pushing you around, so that you have those tools available when you need them. You might find that you actually have to change the way that you dress so that you can accommodate these tools.
No more stretchy pants.
No more stretchy pants.
Dang it.
Or perhaps you start looking for things. So maybe you wear button-down shirts a lot. So what tools can you carry on you that you can use with button-down shirts? Or maybe you carry or wear cargo pants, so you have that extra pocket that you can throw a flashlight in. So, what you wear goes a long way as far as what you can carry as well.
Yeah, you just answered my question. That's what I was going to ask about. What can you do to change your clothing to fit, carrying better tools?
It's funny. It makes me think, and this is not really personal protection related, but it kind of is. I remember seeing this video of this old boy and this younger guy. They were like at an old hardware store, and it was somewhere down south. And they decided to do basically a pocket dump to see who had more stuff. They were each wearing, like coveralls and a vest. Well, that old boy, like he had like 2D battery, like seriously, like he had so much stuff on his person. Like it was a ridiculous amount of stuff that you'd be surprised. Like I wouldn't think I could carry that much stuff on me, but he had a ton of stuff on him.
Yep. So
I guess that's the other thing is you can go overboard too.
Yep, definitely.
You could get a little ridiculous and be tactical Timmy and have, your IFAK and then another med kit in your back pocket.
Well, if you find that, if you have to jog up the stairs and everything's falling off you, that's probably a good indicator that you got too much stuff.
No yard cells?
No yard cells, yeah.
Plus, when you start grappling around, it's just uncomfortable to have all that crap on you anyways.
Yeah, or even just doing everyday tasks. I mean, bending over to tie your shoe if you have too much stuff in your belt line or...
well, I have too much, but it's not really anything tactical. It's just dinner.
Just extra.
Yeah, tactical fluff is what I got.
You might get confused. Maybe not confused, but maybe you have so much stuff that you don't know where something is, or maybe, you have to go through such a long ritual to get everything on and take everything off at the beginning and the end of the day that you might forget something. I mean, that's a consideration you might want to make too.
Yeah, that's solid. One of the things we talk about in martial blade concepts is have a plan, work your plan. Oftentimes people will have too many plans. So if you have a basic set of skills, a basic set of tools that you can use for a wide variety of encounters, that's the best strategy.
So let's talk about your class real quick. I had a chance to attend another one of your classes about a month ago.
Yeah.
And I have taken it probably 3 or 4 times, and I learned something new every time. So how did you, I know we talked about this last time, but how did you get involved with martial blade concepts?
So martial blade concepts. So I used to be a defensive tactics instructor. I'm actually back to being an intermediate force instructor. But at the time, I didn't like the way that we dealt with knives. You look at law enforcement in general, and it's kind of rudimentary tactics for stopping a knife. And it scared me more than anything. So I started researching, all right, how do I actually defend against this? How do I defend against somebody that has a knife? Because you look at the probability of someone having a knife versus someone having a gun, knives are everywhere. Mm-hmm. So I started researching and found martial blade concepts. And it's the best thing I've found as far as dealing with modern concerns and the legalities of it. There's a lot of systems out there that will teach things that will probably end up getting you in jail or prison time because you not only become the victim, but then you turn into the attacker because some of the ways that you have to stop people.
And that's scary to think about because I think a lot of folks just figure, and whether it's with knives or guns, they just figure, well, I was defending myself. I'm good. I could just walk away. No, that's probably not going to happen. You're going to end up going to jail no matter what. Yeah. But if you're doing a lot more than you need to be doing, that's super sketchy.
So with that, a lot of people just think, I have a knife, I'll stab somebody, and then they'll just bleed to unconsciousness and die instantly. It's what we see in the movies. There was a thing several years ago, you can find it on YouTube, but it was actually a prison attack. And what it was is one of the prisoners held the other guy's arms back, and then he had a sharpened toothbrush. and he stabbed the guy probably about 7 minutes. You can watch the whole video on YouTube, but he stabs him over 100 times.
Oh my gosh.
A torso repeatedly. Again, it lasted about 7 minutes. Well, this guy survived it. So you think kind of the same thing. The pocket knife or the knife that you're actually carrying, if you're going to stab, unless you know the place is the target, to stop somebody quickly, waiting for somebody to bleed to unconsciousness or give up just because they're stabbed isn't something that you can count on.
Yeah, we let's go through some of the videos and stuff in your class. A lot of those guys, they just think they got punched.
Yep.
They have no clue that they're bleeding underneath their shirt or whatever. It's kind of crazy. The human body protects itself in so many ways, and in a panic, you don't feel the pain.
Yep. I've been fortunate. I did have a knife pulled on me one time in Mexico, but I've never been stabbed. The only cuts I've ever gotten really are paper cuts or maybe cooking dinner. But that's definitely something I don't want to happen to me. But I've had several people in my classes that have been stabbed, and every one of them tells me, I didn't realize I was getting stabbed. I thought I was getting punched. Now, there's one exception to that. One guy got attacked by a machete, and he saw that coming. But for the most part, they thought they were getting punched.
Yeah, it's crazy. And honestly, it's more probable. I mean, we look at the FBI statistics. You're way more likely to be struck by a blunt object or stabbed than you are to be shot. And I know that's kind of contrary to what most people think right now, but that's the truth. Like, according to the FBI statistics, so you just got to be careful where you're going.
Yep. It's
way easier to hide a knife than it is to hide a firearm.
Absolutely. Yep. Well, even just looking around here in your studio, I mean, there's a lot of weapons here I can use. It's a weapon-rich environment in your office.
I do that for a reason.
Yeah. So he's probably got a lot of different firearms around there too,
Actually, no. Well, there's at least one. There's always one. But I recently got rid of my safe that was here in the office. So.
Oh, you did?
That was tough. I moved it. I sold it and I moved it down the guy's stairs and I hurt my back. And now wish I wouldn't have done that.
That's what you get for being old.
You have no idea. Just wait, Mark. Just wait.
So let's talk about that a little bit. A lot of people think, that since mass shootings are kind of at the forefront of everybody's mind now, maybe you're in a gun-free zone or you can't, carry a firearm, and a mass shooting does happen. Is there anything you can do with training and skills with improvised weapons or knives that you can either do to survive or maybe stop the attack?
Yeah, let's talk about a couple scenarios. Let's talk about a work environment first, and then we'll go on to make maybe like a concert or something.
Sure.
So let's think about if you're in a work environment where they say, hey, you can't bring knives or guns to work. You basically can't bring any weapons to work. So the government agency I work for, in one of our facilities, you actually can't take weapons in there. So one of the things I encourage people who are in that situation to do is hang a picture of your family or your friends in your office. So in order to hang a picture, you're going to have to take in a hammer. You're probably going to have to take in a screwdriver to hang those pictures up. So it's kind of a probable or a plausible, a deniability that, hey, I just brought this in to hang
right.
up a picture. But again, you have something that you can use in the situation. Another thing is here in America, we maybe don't defend our schools as well as we should, but as far as from attacks, but we do a really good job of defending against fires. So you can look at schools, place of employment. Everybody has a fire extinguisher. Mm-hmm. So the cool thing about a fire extinguisher is they probably have one close to your office or where you work. You can use that to blind people, spray it in their face. You can use it as a two-handed weapon to impact. There's a lot of things you can do with just the stuff around you in your environment. The other thing is just think about when you go to work, what are my escape? How can I get out of here? How can I barricade myself in if I have to? Where's the quickest exit? So just kind of that same thing we talked about earlier as far as being awareness of being aware of your threats and your objects and tools in your environment's a critical skill to have. Another thing is, in today's world, a lot of times there's shootings and people say, well, I thought it was a balloon or I thought it was fireworks. Well, guess what? If you hear a noise and it sounds like a gunshot, we can't afford to think it's something else nowadays.
Yeah, I'd heard, I can't remember where I heard it, but that happens a lot. Yep. Where was I listening? It might have actually been Gun Talk, which if you guys know who Tom Gresham is, that's an awesome podcast to listen to as well. Anyway, but I think it was him who was talking about that happens a lot in these target-rich environments when there is a shooting. A lot of folks are like, oh, I thought it was fireworks, or even the Las Vegas shooting. I mean, that in the beginning, that's what they all said, is they thought it was fireworks. If you think it doesn't sound right, you need to leave. That's the very first thing, right? Is just get out of there, get your friends and families out of there as fast as possible. It may be fireworks, and you can just laugh about it and be embarrassed later, but it's not worth the risk, honestly.
Yep. And you talk about concerts too. If you are going to go to a concert, make sure that you're positioning yourself in a spot where you can get out. Don't stand in the middle of the crowd.
Yeah.
Be aware of where you're at.
I got it's a guy that works over there at the range. He will not go to a BSU game. He will not go. And he has other reasons for it. And that's, and I respect those reasons or whatever, but a lot of it has to do with just the amount of people there.
Yep.
And he can't do it. And I get it, because if you think about all those people having to leave at those 6 gates in that fatal funnel all at one time, that ain't happening. You can't get people out fast enough.
Well, they say in a lot of these situations, if I remember right, it was at Miami where they had the smoke and everything a few years ago. It seems like a lot of people were getting trampled, and then the smoke inhalation.
Oh, yeah.
That. So
well, there was a fire at the concert.
Yeah. So not only are you running into the situation of somebody maybe shooting at you or trying to kill you, but because everybody's in a panic state, you have that herd mentality, and everybody's just fending for themselves to get out of there. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Again,
and that doesn't mean don't go to concerts.
No. I think that's the thing, people that are causing, that are doing shootings or terrorists, that's what they want us to do. They don't want us to go enjoy ourselves. They want us to stay home and not be proud Americans and do the things that we do and enjoy life. So I think the best thing we can do is arm ourselves and be more aware, and helping other people come to that realization as well that, we have great law enforcement in this country, great military, but everybody knows that if there's a situation, a lot of times it's going to be you, whether you win the day or lose the day.
Yeah.
So.
And that's, I hear a lot of people think that, are you just being paranoid? You're just being paranoid, just relax. And there might be an element to it. Maybe I am a little paranoid, but it's my job to keep my family safe. Yep. I mean, I am the provider of my family, and if I'm gone, then it gets a little more tougher for my wife and kids. So I need to make sure they're okay.
Yep.
And part of that is me being there every day. And if I have to act paranoid in front of my neighbors, or leave when I don't feel comfortable, that's just the way it's going to be.
Yep.
I guess I'm paranoid. I don't know.
Well, if you don't look after your family, who's going to? Nobody cares about your family or yourself as much as you do.
That's true. And it's part of, fending for my family is finding every tool available to make that easier for me.
Yep.
It's sad. It is sad we have to live, not that we have to live, that we live in a world now that seems crazier than ever. Like, it just seems like it's not the same America that I grew up in when I was a kid. Nowhere even close. But I don't really think it's as bad either. I think it's just the bad things are a little more on the news all the time.
Yeah, they're amplified a lot more.
Yep. When I was a kid, I grew up in a really small town here in Idaho, and we actually had a couple high school kids go into the store that was just right across from the street from where I grew up. It's a gas station. And they actually, for a pack of cigarettes, if I remember right, and a little bit of money.
Yeah, it was just a little. I remember that exact same incident. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was pretty sad.
But killed her in cold blood just for some little bit of money and cigarettes. And that's the thing with attacks and people that do harm, is they don't think the way that we do. So,
there's not a lot of value in human life. They're looking for a rush, I think, in some part. And it's pretty sad.
Yeah, and they take what they want, and they don't really think about who they're hurting, and they're going to try to get every advantage they can to get the jump on you.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I don't know. I've thought a lot about this lately. I don't know if it's like, I think social media plays a part. Actually, not just social media, but just the whole on-demand thing now that we're all a part of. I mean, how long did it take to get on the internet 15 years ago?
Oh man, is that dial-up?
It sucked, right?
Yeah, that school.
Yeah, with that crazy noise, and to even download like a game or a picture that somebody sent you or anything like that.
It was ridiculous, right? But at the time, we're like, oh man, check it out, 15 more minutes.
Yeah.
Now, if we can't get on a website or download something in seconds, we go crazy.
Yeah, if I can't watch Netflix, man, I'm going to be upset.
That's true.
What was it the other day? Instagram was down for like 3 hours, and everybody's like panic attacks.
Oh, I bet it was the end of the world for some of those people.
Yep.
What are all my followers going to think?
Right.
Let's get back to your class a little bit. What do you think? Because Obviously I think when people think of self-defense, they go to guns first. How do people kind of find you and end up taking your class, and what do they think afterwards?
Yeah, I think a lot of people that actually come to my classes, they're either, number one, they are a gun guy or gal, and they say, I want to learn, have some other options. Or I think what the majority of people are is they say, you know what, knives scare me. I need to learn to defend against it. And probably the third category is people just say, I probably can't use a gun. I don't know if I could shoot somebody. I need to use a knife, which is kind of an interesting thing because I think as far as knife use, you're a lot more personal. So it actually probably takes a little bit more. But I think that so many people grow up around knives, and that's what you use to cook dinner and open packages and stuff, that knives are a familiar tool with a lot of people.
I open my Amazon packages with my Glock.
Yeah. They use the sight or what? How do you do
that? I just rattle around across the tape.
There you go.
Just
got it off the top.
Right down the middle. I've seen him do it.
I got the suppressor on, so it's not too loud.
So you just skip it off the top of the package. And nice.
He's very skilled.
Yeah.
Something. I'm very something.
But that's a good point that you bring up, though, that, is... the knife in it, just in the academic sense, is a tool. You can use it, to cook dinner. You can use it to cut meat, open packages, open letters, or you can use it for defense or offense. And, we've talked about a firearm being a tool. And I think that's a great analogy, is that, you can use a firearm as a tool for defense or offense or sport or what have you.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think too, most knives, they're just ergonomic, and it might be because, like you're saying, we're just always using them. Mm-hmm. They seem like they're easier to wield in any hand.
Yep.
And so I think, like you're saying, people are just more comfortable with them.
And that's why I think it's important to take a class from somebody that understands knives, because everybody knows how to use one. I mean, it's rudimentary that you're going to use gross motor skills, latch onto somebody, and just thrust and stab and repeatedly try and kill somebody. So having the ability to defend against that and know what targets to target if you have to actually use a knife are critical things to know.
That and like you said, defense against knives too, because not only in your class do you teach how to stop threats, but how to defend against other threats as well.
Yep.
Which I would argue is more important, because if you can defend yourself and then get away, then you've saved yourself your life and probably a lot of legal headache afterwards.
Yep. Like they say, the best fight is the fight avoided. So not even being there or getting out there before it has the opportunity to become a fight.
Yeah.
Right. But speaking of knives, you talk about knife selection a lot in the beginning of the class, from what I remember. And you've got a really great way of demonstrating how different knives perform kind of on human flesh. Tell me a little bit about that.
So I actually took that idea from Michael Janich. He's a world famous knife designer for Spyderco, and he's actually the one that developed the system. Martial Blade Concepts, the one that I teach. Basically what it is, it's according to trauma surgeons, it's the best way to replicate cutting human flesh, tendons, ligaments, that type of stuff. What it basically is it's a wooden dowel, and then that is wrapped with a butterfly piece of pork, and then that's wrapped with butcher's twine and about 30 layers of saran wrap. And according to trauma doctors, that's, like I said, as close as you can get to cutting human tissue.
Pretty similar.
Yep. So what we do with that is we'll actually take a piece of denim, a pair of Levi's, maybe a jacket, and put it over the top of that. And then we will show or demonstrate in these classes what different blade styles will do, the capabilities of the knife that you actually carry, and show people, hey, this is what you can actually do with your knife. And it's really interesting. Every time I teach these courses, I encourage people that are there. I say, hey, do you have a knife that you want to see how it performs? And I've had some really expensive technical knives that they bought, they spent a lot of money on, that don't perform as well as they thought they would.
Yeah, and it is an eye opener, because I'll watch, like I said, I've been to your class a few times. So the first time I was watching that. Yep. But the other times I've been there, I've been watching everybody else, and it's funny to watch their faces that are like, whoa,
jaw drop. Yeah.
I didn't believe a utility knife could do that. Or I thought my $200 knife was going to work better. Yep. It's pretty amazing.
Yep. But again, just like a firearm, you know what kind of rounds you're going to carry. Same thing with the knife. Make sure that you know, or a tool, make sure you know that will actually do. Because if you have to use it, you got to know what it's going to do.
Well, and one thing I was surprised at was that, certain blade types will get stuck in either the flesh or the denim or what have you. And then if that gets stuck, you're kind of in trouble. And so, the type of blade that you have also matters quite a bit as well, right?
Yep, absolutely.
And talk a little bit about that because, there's different kinds of blade. There's curved blades and serrated blades, but you really recommend, tell me about the kind of blades and knives that you recommend.
So I'm a little partial to the Warncliffe blade. So what that basically is, it looks like a big box cutter. So it's kind of got that point that tapers down almost like a ramp in the front. What that allows you to do is when you cut, it allows you to apply pressure from the heel of the blade all the way to the tip. So if you're a hunter or maybe you field dress an animal and you've had a knife, you've probably used something that has a little bit of belly or curve to the knife. So what that allows you to do is maybe not cut as deep. If you tried to skin a deer with a box cutter, it's going to cut right through the skin. So kind of those same principles. Any of that curve is going to dissipate the force of the cut, and the cut's not going to be as deep or effective. So that's one of the reasons we really like that, kind of almost like a straight edge. One of the things you'll find too is a lot of people like Tonto tip blades. Those are really great for penetrating armor, maybe a hood of a car or something like that. But as far as cutting, they don't cut as deep. So a lot of people's eyes are open to that. We could talk for probably hours about the different blade types and what.
And Adam's being pretty modest about when he talks about a particular knife style, because Top's Knife, they hooked, or you teamed up with Top's Knives.
Yeah, so I teamed up with Top's Knife, have a new design. So
it's pretty badass.
Yeah, I'm proud of it.
So if you want to know what it looks like and you have a computer, jump on Top's Knives.
Or actually go to SpartanMode.com.
Oh, it's on your website. Even better, go to SpartanMode.com and check out the Agogi.
Yep.
It is pretty badass.
Yeah, I'm proud of it.
Yeah, it's the Agogi 2, actually.
Yep. So this is the second version of it. We've made a couple changes on it, and it's a very capable knife.
It's freaking cool is what it is. And the first one, the first few, they were gone, right? So they were sold out so fast that you couldn't get them.
Yeah, the first run I did, we sold out in 31 minutes. So it was
I know. I tried getting one and it was gone.
Yep. This one we ordered a few more. We still have a few left, but they were flying off the shelf. So,
and Top's Knives, I mean, obviously Idaho company, a very capable knife maker. If you guys, especially, they're probably most known for their bushcraft type stuff.
Yep.
But their defensive stuff is pretty remarkable too.
And that's actually why I went with them. They're a stand-up company. One of the things with them is with a Warncliffe style blade. So we were talking about that point, kind of goes down like a razor blade. One of the disadvantages to a blade like that is that the tip can be a little fragile. Mm-hmm. So for thrusting, if you hit bone or maybe you're using to pry something, it could snap. So working with Tops, we actually developed a stronger blade. So as part of the testing process, we actually took an old metal filing cabinet, and I stabbed the metal filing cabinet about 50 times, trying to break the tip of it off, and it didn't break the tip. I mean, they're heat treat, and they do a differential heat treat. It's very robust. So the knife will hold up to anything that you throw at it.
Yeah, they're just a solid group of guys too. I really like those guys.
Yeah, good people.
Yeah, so you can use it as a kind of a utilitarian knife as much as a defensive knife as well.
Yeah, I typically, if it's a defensive knife, I kind of leave it as a defensive knife. But yeah, if you absolutely had to, you could use it for other stuff. But I like to keep it sharp if it needs to be used. I hope I never ever have to use a knife on someone.
And that's something that maybe people don't think about. If it's a defensive knife, or maybe you just carry one kind of knife, sharpening is obviously pretty important, right?
Yep. Keeping it sharp. And the other thing I'll do is, I'll typically carry a couple knives on me, but I will usually have a utility little pocket knife on me, just something that's a little razor blade that I can switch out the blade, something nice and small. So if I have to open a package or somebody asks to borrow a knife, I can let them borrow that and not be too hurt about it. One of the knives I'll typically pick up is you can get, I think it's a Gerber for like $11 at Walmart. It's just a little utility knife that you can fold in half. It looks like a little pocket clip or a money clip.
Right.
But I've had a lot of people ask, hey, can I borrow your knife? And now I'm at the point where that's all I'll loan out. I don't want to loan my nice knives. I once had a lady say, hey, can I borrow your knife? I said, yeah, no problem. And she used my nice folder to spread butter on toast and jammed it all up with gooey stuff.
Oh, so no.
Did you tell her, oh, by the way, I got a pig with that earlier?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, and you owe me a new knife now.
Yeah.
She was just lubricating the works.
Yeah,
That's all it was.
Yep.
Is your knife at spartanmode.com, is that a folder or is that a fixed blade?
Fixed blade.
Okay. And tell me a little bit about the kind of the pros and cons of each, maybe.
Yeah, so a couple different things. So if you're looking at a fixed blade, they are faster, they're stronger. That's kind of some of the main advantages to it. Disadvantages is there's a lot of places where you can't carry a fixed blade. Again, for the government agency I work for, I can't carry a fixed blade to work. As far as folders, I mean, it's just it doesn't draw a lot of attention. If you have a big fixed blade on your hip and it's exposed, people are going to be like, "Hey, that's a little weird."
Yeah.
So,
well, in Idaho, and I'm sure other states do too, they have restrictions on fixed blade knife lengths too. So,
yep.
Luckily, you're in. That makes me think of another thing. It's important to understand that your concealed weapons permit is not just for firearms,
right, but
it covers whatever you might be carrying as a defensive tool.
Yep.
So, if you're exceeding the length of the blade, you need to be carrying your concealed weapons permit with you. Well, I guess not now because
here in Idaho,
constitutional carry now.
Yep.
So,
but that is a great point. One of the things what you look at when you're looking to buy a knife or an improvised tool, whatever it is, you need to make sure that it's legal to carry. You don't want to start with a felony in your pocket. So make sure that wherever you live, wherever you work, wherever you frequent, wherever you travel, look at those tools and make sure that it's going to be something that's legal.
Yeah, auto opens are illegal in some states.
Yeah.
And even restricted by age. So you got to think about that. Don't just buy something for your kid for Christmas because you might be giving a ticket to jail too.
Yeah.
So where's a good place, Adam, that you can go, or is there a place that you can go to look up different kind of knife laws for different states? Because, like, for example, I flew to Illinois about a month ago, and I thought maybe I'll get a knife to, because I can't carry a gun there because there's no reciprocity between Illinois and Idaho, unfortunately. But is there a place I didn't know what the rules were? So is there a place that you can go to, to get that figured out?
Yep. There's actually several of them. One off the top of my head is called Knife Up. So they kind of have a lot of the knife laws, state to state. I should have my phone on me. I've got a couple apps on there that kind of tell you reciprocity and what is legal and not legal.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I think this one popped into mind. I don't know. This is actually the first time I ever jumped to this website, but I've heard them referenced a lot as knife rights. And I don't know. I'm sure there's some other stuff in here. But
looks like you can go to knifeup.com and there's a map of the U.S. and you can just click your state or the state you're going to, and looks like you can. It's pretty straightforward. It looks like.
Yeah. Yep.
Because it's like we said, it's you don't want to start with a felony in your pocket, and that's important to know because I bet you obviously when you're traveling interstate, you're going to look up gun laws, at least if you're a responsible gun owner and you're thinking about that and you're traveling with firearms. We just did one a little while ago on traveling with firearms and talked about that. But, I would think that maybe not many people actually think about a knife because it's just a knife. Like, why would there be different rules for knives in different states, So that's really important to point out.
Yep. Well, and it is getting more restrictive. And New York State or New York City is crazy. Like if the knife flops open, that could be considered a gravity open or whatever, and you could be in deep trouble just because the knife happens to open on its own weight. So it could get pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, and not only state to state, but county to county, it can change dramatically as well. So you really got to be careful.
That's ridiculous.
Yep.
Really, county to county.
Yep. So every jurisdiction can be a little bit different. So you just got to be kind of cognizant of where you're going.
Man.
Well, it's a good thing I lost all my knives in a boating accident, I guess.
Along with all your firearms.
Yeah, my wife gets pissed at me. And I have a lot of knives, but none of them are expensive.
Yeah.
Because I'll end up just like losing one and then buying another one, then finding the last two I lost. And so I have a drawer full of pocket knives.
Yep. I used to be that way. So I used to buy really cheap pocket knives because I thought, I always lose them. And I hear that from a lot of people. They're like, I don't want to spend $140 on a knife. I don't want to spend $100 on a knife because I always lose it. I found that when I spent a little bit more money on it, I took a little bit more pride and made sure that I actually took care of it.
You don't lose it.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, because it was worth more money. It's like sunglasses. If you have a pair of expensive sunglasses, you're going to make sure you know where they're at more often than not.
Well, yeah, and I also think it's kind of a funny argument, too, because you look at your pistol, everybody says, I'll lose my pocket knife. It's like, well, are you losing your gun? I mean, they're both kind of attached to you. So I don't know. It's just, like you say, priorities and what you put. And
And in reality, if it's something you're using as a defensive tool, you should know where it's at all the time.
Yeah, even when it's not on you. So you are still teaching classes and you're still traveling around, although I don't think you're traveling around as much as you have been because you were all over the country last year, right?
Yep, I will be again next year. I've been sticking around the house a little bit more, not traveling as much.
Probably should.
Probably the next couple. I've got some stuff in Boyce and Nampa, Twin Falls, Rexburg. That's kind of the local stuff for a while. And then next year it's looking like potentially Kansas, Pennsylvania.
That's cool.
Potentially Tokyo, Japan.
Holy cow, serious?
San Francisco. Yeah, so
wow.
We're working on those. Having a lot of fun with it.
Well, if you need a luggage caddy guy, we're going to Tokyo, let me know.
Okay.
Yeah, seriously. So can you carry a knife in Japan? Is there a lot of differences in self-defense there? Can you talk about that for a minute?
I wish I could. I don't know the laws there. So
I
gotcha. Okay.
I just made that conversation real boring.
I doubt you could walk off. I do have an acquaintance that used to frequent Thailand, not for any weird, crazy reasons, at least not that he ever told me, but he would, every time he got off the plane, he would find, he would pick out exactly what cabbie just by looking at it. He wouldn't just take any cabbie. He would seek one that looked just right, and then he'd say, "Hey, take me somewhere to buy a knife."
Mm-hmm.
And he
really,
because he knew he couldn't take his gun with him. Yep. So he would just find any tool he could.
Wow.
Like I said, that's why he'd pick out just that particular looking cabbie because he figured they'd know where to go to get the tools that he needed.
And he was probably right 9 times out of 10.
Yeah. And that's why I would never travel with him. I'm not looking for trouble. I don't want to go to a Thai prison.
Mm-mm.
No, thank you.
I don't need caned.
Nope.
So you can check out SpartanMode.com to figure out where Adam's going to be next, and you can buy his knife and check out some other cool stuff on the website. Where else can we find you online?
So if you go to Facebook, it's Spartan Mode LLC, or on Instagram, it's Spartan.mode. So just Spartan period MODE. And that's probably the best place to find me. Yeah.
Awesome.
I think if you've thought about taking a knife class, or at least it's been something on the back of your mind, do it. Don't wait. Don't try to postpone it any longer. The classes that Adam teaches they're not over your head. It's something that anybody can do. And I learned a lot. Like I say, every time I go to one, I'm learning stuff. And it's not over my head. Adam has a way of teaching that's not overbearing or a tactical Timmy type stuff. It's pretty awesome class.
Yeah, and I, it's like I said, it's been just about a year since we took the last class, and I still remember, most everything. I can't wait to take another one again sometime soon.
Cool. Yeah, I'd be excited to have you guys back. That's one of the things I focus on when I teach is I want people to walk away with some actual skills. Mm-hmm. A lot of systems and things, what they'll do is they'll teach you some stuff that looks really cool and impressive, but for you to pull it off, it's going to be very challenging.
Yeah.
So that's something we take pride in Martial Blade Concepts is that people can actually walk away with some skills, and maybe they won't be able to apply it all or use it all, but we have a saying Mike Janich says that you don't have to fight like me, you just have to fight well. And so that's what we want everybody out there. We want responsible people to be able to defend themselves and protect those that they love.
And you're definitely going to learn some skills that if you were getting roughed up right after the class, like it's simple enough, and it's actually like mechanically how your body works. It's fluid, and you don't have to think about it too much in depth. It just works. And that's why I like it so much. It's simple and it's effective.
Yeah. There were basic moves, but they're moves that you don't necessarily think about making. But then when you start to apply them in practice, with practice knives and stuff, it really makes a lot of sense, and it really does flow with how your body wants to go anyway. And so it's easy to remember because it just feels natural.
So that's actually one of the things I do. I focus a lot on the knife classes. I'm going to push more for the impact. So weapons of opportunity, flashlights, pens, that type of stuff. So you're going to see some of those on the calendar for next year as well, teaching a little bit more
awesome.
Stuff. So
yeah, for sure. I was going to ask, what's the future besides Tokyo? What's the future of Spartan Mode looking like?
Just having a lot of fun helping people protect themselves, man. It's I love doing it. So
very cool. Yeah, I'd be really interested to take the improvised weapons class too. That'd be great.
Might have to do it down there at
Independence.
Yeah.
Well, I know a couple of people
You know
down
some
there.
people down there, yeah.
Yeah, one or two. So
Yeah, you want to say
Yeah.
anything, Adam?
I think that's it, man. Everybody out there, be safe. Protect what you love and who you love.
Yeah, get on SpartanMode.com, sign up for some of his seminars. Don't wait. Do it.
yep, they fill up fast, and you don't want to miss out and wish you did it. So, and Adam's a busy man, so he's might be a while before he comes back to your neck of the woods.
It's worth it.
Cool.
Thank you, Adam Boyce. Again, we appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. It's good talking to you guys again.
Just don't be scared to come back on again.
Yeah, we'll get you on a third time. And thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
Right on. See you guys.
See you.
Thanks for listening to Range Minded. Find us online at Range Minded Podcast on Facebook, or send us an email at podcast@iishooting.com. We're always happy to get feedback, episode suggestions, whatever you want to send us, really. And be sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and pretty much wherever else you get your podcasts from. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.